So when I'm working with somebody privately, I usually choose their 50% line of better energy. Everyone has 100%, meaning dark and light. So you can start tuning the dial into this higher frequency of best case scenarios, highest rate possible. So it's kind of like a life insurance agent where you can see all the variables that make them them. And so if I'm sitting here with you, I can tell things that are never going to happen with you. It's like a 0% chance.
Oh, wow. Well, hello, Jessica, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Okay, so like I just told you, I've so many questions for you, and you do so many things that as I was preparing, I was like, do we go this way or this way or this way or all the ways? But before we even get into anything, I would love to start with gratitude. So
Amazing.
3 things that you are grateful for today.
Ooh, I am so grateful for today. Let's call it no LA traffic. Let's start there. It was just one of
wow.
those like where the roads open up and you're flying and
my
singing. You're like, this is great. And then secondly, I am grateful to be sitting here with you, like-minded, wonderful, inspiring women. So thank you for having me. And I would say I am grateful to, I did not even catch your name, but I'm going to give it to you, our team here, Tatum, because you know what? Like, it takes a village to do everything. And so thank you for being a part of this little container of ours.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's start with what you do and who you serve, because you do a lot of things, and you are, in my mind, I look at you and I've seen your work. It's just creator. You create so many beautiful things, but if you had to kind of sum it up and explain what you do, how would you describe it?
You know, I struggle with sometimes the title of what I do, because it is like I'm just like a human so deeply in their expression, right?
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, I have to quantify it into marketing.
Human terms.
You know, sometimes I call it I'm a channel, because truly I think that is what I you know, if you imagine like a channel of a river, I just know how to correctly flow energy through me, whether it's mine or a client. And so I'm a channel. I guess some people like to call it a psychic. I'm a business owner. I am a CEO. I am, you know, I'm a mom. I'm a lot of things. But in the world that has brought us obviously here, I would say on the forefront, it's a channel.
Yeah.
To energetic world.
I would love to start there, because I know that, I mean, you started channeling at like 12 years old or something like that.
When I like officially was like, okay, this is like, we're going to, you know, put some boundaries on what it was.
Yeah.
Before that, it was, and I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to it, where you feel a lot of things. You feel a lot of energy. You feel people. I think a lot of kids come into this world not knowing the rules of shut down, keep your container tight. And so, you know, I gratefully had someone show me how to do some body channeling on how to contain it. And honestly, since then, it's always been a part of my life personally. And again, I mean, geez, like anytime I say it, I feel like it's like 6, 7, 8, you know, the years go on, you're like, wait, how many years is this? Probably 10 years. It unfolded into itself of what it is now to where it was supposed to be for other people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we just kind of explain what we mean by channeling?
Yeah.
Because I think there's, you know, most people are like, yeah, I know, you're like connecting to the other side, I think.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What exactly are you doing, and how do you know if you're doing it? Because for me, I think I so desperately want that like clear, I am channeling, this is coming from source. But sometimes I think, because I'm probably more claircognizant, it's just like comes as like my own ideas, and then I'm questioning like, is it me? Is it like something else? Like what? So what is channeling for you, and how do you know that you're doing it or if you're not doing it?
So everybody channels. So if everyone kind of goes like, okay, I am a channel, I've got to believe that. Then you start going, okay, wait, what am I wearing? Wait, where did this channel from? Zara told me this top was cool. And, and I'm sitting here being someone who shows up on time because my father taught me that. So you realize how you start channeling through a lot of times what is our like family and our teachers at first, right? Which is why it's so important for our youth to have, really impactful people around them, because they will, with the subconscious, forming, channel from there. Channeling things that are not of this world, I guess that's what we'll get into. So if you take that same concept of, okay, where did this come from? Why do I choose it? When we quiet the ego, when we quiet our mind, meditation is probably the most popular way to do it, but obviously you can do it other ways. Like sometimes when you're driving or in the shower, where your brain just basically is not firing off, having 10 conversations. You can start to, and I generalize this because I've started to realize not everybody can do this. You can start to feel infinite other opinions and thoughts and wavelengths. And so
you're saying feel.
You can, some people see, some people feel. So you said you're just a feeler.
Or like a knowing almost.
Okay, you do knowing. So then, and then it filters through like your brain going, do. That's fine because you're the actual human form creating from it. But you can start to work backwards and navigate where you want to pull from. So when I'm working with somebody privately, I usually choose their 50% line of better energy. Everyone has 100%, meaning dark and light. So you can start tuning the dial into this higher frequency of best case scenarios, highest rate possible. So it's kind of like a life insurance agent where you can see all the variables that make them them. And so if I'm sitting here with you, I can tell things that are never going to happen with you. It's like a 0% chance.
Oh, wow.
Now you could completely try to go against the universe, but everything would feel out of alignment.
Yeah.
And then we have our best, scenarios, our highest good scenarios, or our lessons we need to learn scenarios. And those are very vibrant. So then I pull into those threads and we follow it. So that's where the psychic part comes into, where you can kind of tell like where things navigate and where things go. And then you can pull backwards and see their patterns. And you can tell pretty much what they're going to choose again. So then you're like, oh, let's yank over here or here. And so it's energy work. It's understanding. And again, I don't know, I always joke, this is probably one of my first times here on this earth. I just didn't get the rule book because I don't know why, but since I was very small, I could just see it. And it's just, again, I think all of us have gifts. And, just kind of leaning into like, okay, I'm going to show up for this.
Yeah.
And not kind of push it down.
So how does it show up for you? Like when you're doing work with a private client or even when you were younger?
Yeah. When I was younger, it definitely showed up in the sloppiest ways, like accidental astral projection, seeing whoever else is in this room besides us, like everything was just like, mediumship, like every door was open. And so it was intense. And then I think as everybody does, you move through your teens and your 20s and you just numb everything you are. And so that was like a good, process. And then you get to the comfort place of like, okay, I can like thread this. But it looks like I basically drop into meditation if you're sitting here. And usually guides speak in a voice that is, I call it coding. And then I translate it. So I just shut off and let them speak, which is hilarious when it's like a weird voice or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And then you can go into their highest self. You can go into any avenue. Mediumship has a different frequency.
Yeah.
The way to tell is because when someone has been here before, they show up in a resonance that's more earth side. So there's all these little adjustments you can make, like a radio. And, I say this in a way of like, yes, I'm realizing not everybody can do this, but everybody has a capacity to do this. And literally you have to remember, like, I'm almost 40. Like, I've been going at this for years. So if you want to start channeling, if you want to start playing with it, practice every single day for a year, you will get somewhere. And that's the thing, is like with anything.
And what is the practice, like getting into meditation?
I would say get into meditation for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and then just ask for signs. Signs are a great way to, work with our earth eyes and be like, okay, I want to see this and this and this, and let it play with you back. And then when you get the sign, accept it instead of reject it.
Yeah. Have you had the experience though? For me, when I want the sign, when I ask for it, I never get it. But when I don't, it's like boom in my face. Could not be more clear that it's a sign.
I would go ahead and say you probably know deep down when you're not getting the signs, that's your sign, and and you're being like, when we get bratty with the universe, we're like, well, I want it this way, And so like you can feel when things flow, and this is an important thing for anybody to probably understand is, in the energetic field, it's sometimes like, I can imagine like an ocean, like it's flat, and then other times waves come. Knowing how to read the flow, because you could apply for every job or try to go on every date and there's not a set of waves coming and you're like, what's going wrong? Then your head gets in the way. And then if you learn to maneuver into a frequency, then it's just like boom, boom, boom.
Oh, I love that metaphor too. And actually this is a perfect segue because you talk a lot about quantum and you talk a lot about sort of like where science and spirituality meet and also where manifestation and free will come into play.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts here as it relates to what we're talking about and getting into the flow and what it means from the quantum perspective.
Yeah, and that's such a broad question. So maybe I'll pull it into, I think a lot of people are on like a healing journey, right?
Yeah.
So let's go into healing, whether it's physical body, emotional healing, spiritual healing, or just simply like a sprained knee. There is a thing called the observer effect. So it turns it into actual matter. And so when that takes place, we have to go into that other state, that meditative state. And it starts to change things into actually this physical world, or else it stays in this in between. Or a lot of people have had people around them younger say like, no, brush it off. That's not true. So you can see how these opposing things are happening in physics. And so as far as like a healing journey or the whole quantum world is the quickest way to watch how things manifest or heal or call things into your life is literally bring it into alchemize it from the universe, bring it into this physical world, is just let it be observed. And once it's observed, the energy slows down enough to we can do whatever when we're on this earth. And I know that might be kind of out there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So let's actually talk about this and maybe like with like in words that would really help someone understand here are the tangible steps. So if they're on a healing journey, let's say it's something physically that they're healing from. What are they observing and how are they?
This is where it is, I am such a huge fan of where people are like, you should be your own healer. I'm such a huge fan of going to professionals. Have a healer observe this. That is what they're trained in. Or, some people love doing psychedelics, or some people where the actual physical body can say, yes, I know that is true. So having someone observe it or letting it be seen is what I'm kind of, if that makes sense, like bringing it into this physical realm. So say you're like, my stomach hurts. A healer usually can, with whatever clair, if you're claircognizant, they can piece it together. And then once the physical body and the ego has observed it, it can actually do something with it. Does that make sense? And that you can move it through breath work. You can move it through, crying. You can move it through anything, Reiki, anything. So there's an actual, it's like, I think energy world and like how we bring things down from the quantum seems so abstract. It's actually pretty ABC.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if most healers know what they're doing, but
it's observing. So then where does your own beliefs come into play? And this, like what we would probably talk about in the science world is the placebo effect. You think you're being healed and then you are healed.
Everything is placebo. Are we even here?
Yeah. Yeah.
That, does that make sense? It's just everything is placebo. And so with that though, there's energetic codes behind things like Tylenol. I don't know what it probably used to get, or let's take penicillin, right? Penicillin used to be made out of probably like something real. And like any sort of drug.
Is it not anymore?
I don't even know.
Oh.
But the energy of it has flattened out. And so it's one of those things of, it does help to be an energy reader where potency is more important than placebo. So if someone believes deeply, this piece of Tylenol will fix me, and the advertising is done correct, it will work until basically they address, because eventually it goes on, well, hold on, this isn't fixing the headache. What is it? You might need water. You might need sleep, like whatever it is. So the same thing goes into pretty much everything, is you have to believe it.
Yeah.
And regardless of what anybody tells you, and I'm sure anybody with the who is in the blessed enough state to be listening to this means you probably have a phone. It means you probably live in a place that you have a little bit of comfort. Is you are probably at a place where you get to believe anything you want. And so in that, you just have to align yourself. It's like it's harmony. I describe it as we all have a frequency coming off our body, harmonizing with what works for you. And when you're in that, you're in the sweet spot, and the waves are always coming and everything is always flowing towards you. But if you don't know your own song, then you're like off key with everything, and like trying to like fit it.
And if you like to know that you're in the flow, it's the feeling. It feels
It's telling you the whole time. Our body is 100% accurate as far as gut feeling. It's like one of the only accurate places, because it's working in like the world that we live in. So if you just listen, we all listen and we don't do, or we don't listen and talk ourselves out of it. But all of us know we just skirt around our flow.
Yeah.
It's so simple, except for the fact that you probably are going to let down a lot of people in the process, have to change a lot of things, take risk, not know what's going to happen next. And that really messes with our ego. It is much easier to, in the ego's mind, to stay alive with no matter how crappy yesterday was, than to go into an unknown territory that is not safe for the animal brain. But if you just go with it, every single thing works out.
Totally. And it's one of those things too, that the more evidence you have, the easier it becomes. So in the beginning, the scary decisions are really scary because everything is pulling you back.
Yeah.
But then when you remember, every time I do something that's a little uncomfortable, I'm rewarded for it. And I get into this place of feeling really good, and the things show up, and like the opportunities come in.
And that's where like healing your vessel, or healing, I'd say like getting to know it very well, is like, oh, what turns me on? It is not the unknown. Okay, wait, then I need to, it's like tricking the brain constantly of like how to adjust it to get comfortable with, because it does, like, I loved what you said about, if you do it enough, you're like, oh, I trust this. But that can be years.
Totally.
And we're like, I still know.
It could be your whole life.
I know for me,
right?
every time I'm like, this is crazy. But, I have learned to love that sensation. So finding that sensation when you do something new and being like, wait, I want to sit in this and recognize it.
Yeah.
And then be like, ooh, every time it comes up, that's my like sign that it's about to change.
Totally.
And it's that drop on the roller coaster where you're like,
me too. I've totally flipped it in my head from something that's scary to something that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like,
and mindset is so important.
But it feels the same. Like scary and exciting feel the same, but one is like exhilarating, you want it, and the other is like you want to protect yourself against it.
Exactly. And if you kind of go into the idea of like, okay, this is just biology, this is my like, ego trying to keep me alive to reproduce for the longest time. Okay, I can get over this. Like, what are we doing here? And so you're like, I'm fine with that. I can move forward.
Totally. I love what you said also about, I can't remember where I heard you say it, but you were saying how, we're taught to lead with the brain, and that's a really bad idea. Like, because we should lead from the soul, which is a much more high vibrational place. But can you talk about this a little bit too?
Yeah. If the brain is so important, it's so important. And again, mindset's important. Like, our brain is our greatest tool. So it's not disregarding that, or even the Western places of, all the modalities we have to train our brain and understand it and work with it. But when you go soul first, so feminine first, and that doesn't matter if you're masculine or feminine gender, it doesn't have anything to do with that, but it's that energetic state first, energy first language. And then once you land on that key, you bring it into your brain. And if you have trained your brain enough with affirmations and mindsets and, structure, and that's where the masculine comes in, it can go to work for you and build it all. Because I think people get stuck in the feminine going, man, I'm manifesting every day and dreaming. And probably like 100 lives from now, it might land into place and we might be living in that manifestation. But you can use your masculine energy, the doing on the earth, to expedite it into this life pretty quick.
Whoa. I have never heard anyone talk about that.
Yeah.
Like the work you're doing now can manifest in a future, well, I guess simultaneous life or
yeah.
what?
So I know for a fact that, just have you ever done inner child work?
Yeah.
Right? There's someone out there taking care of you right now from the future. She's at her women's circle. It's like 3020, whatever. And she's like, I want to like help my ancestors, and I know for a fact our ancestors, like, were probably bomb ass women doing dope stuff, listening. So, does that make sense? There's no timeline. So all you can do is right now in the moment show up, because I can, being an energy worker, I can feel when their prayers come, or like some, psychedelic.
Like your future self?
Yeah. So I just work from her. Does that make sense? So I'm living backwards.
This is mind-blowing.
I'm living backwards. I think everybody should only live backwards instead of forward. It gets so much easier. Because if not, you're constantly like in the dark being like, ugh. But if you're like in a constant memory of like, there has to be, because evolution only expands until it contracts. But I'm only working in the expansion place. So if you find your highest expanded version of you and you can feel it, and it might again be like 10 years from now.
And it could be it doesn't matter the gender, or like it's just
doesn't matter gender, if it's human, if it's energy. We usually
on this planet.
No, just wherever. I'll get into are we individual or collective in a second.
Yeah.
But in our individual self, if you just basically lock into that thing of like, what's that highest version out there praying for me? And you just do whatever they want. You're like, I trust no matter what. Like, I trust this Jess way more than my like child Jess. So it's like, I'm just working off whatever that sensation is. So what today is in my highest order? What today's can I show up best for this world? And I just do it. Does that make sense?
And this is a knowing that comes to you through.
Yeah. So if I'm being transparent, I work with myself. She's about 80 years old. Yeah.
This lifetime.
Yeah, I can feel other ones, but most of the work I can't do here on the planet. I'm too like childish and immature. So like can't help my like 100 lives from now self.
Do you see her? Like can
you? So
do you know where she is? Like
yeah.
Could that change though, depending on like what if you choose to do something else?
It can completely change. I have made a deep promise to her. So it won't, I've locked in and promised her I'll live this lifetime out. Now, if I felt at any point I wanted to change that contract and be someone completely different, I think it'd be totally fine. And here's the thing is like, I'm so locked in with her, but there's other threads we can lean into of like different versions of ourselves. But
because are there infinite?
It's infinite. There's most likely probable, which is what
I
could sit with you in session. And like, there's a few probabilities that are probably going to happen. But besides that, like, no, like it doesn't get too crazy.
Like, would you be able to, not that you would share this, and this might be a silly question, but could you tell if like someone is not meant to be in a relationship and like they're meant to be doing like moving to a different country and like that's their highest timeline and that they should leave their family and then maybe bring their kids eventually? Like, do you see that kind of thing? Or is it like...
Yeah, sometimes I find that most people I work with are pretty decent at being on track. I think I charge a lot for sessions. So I find people that don't have those money limiters are pretty comfortable with, being in themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have experience, and only the people that are sitting there with me know or have been in those moments. Like, we both know the things that we know. And then when they come into fruition and those things get changed and shifted, it is like one of those weird, spooky, deja vu moments of being on Earth.
And does it also like, do you know how long life is going to be and like intended to be?
So life expectancies,
Yeah.
it's, there's probabilities. And here's the thing though, is like, you're like, okay, you're going to live to 120. You can change your mind and literally eat McDonald's every day and
Yeah.
start drag racing,
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
the 120 is my highest timeline. Like
it's
that's,
kind of like, okay, this is where most probable, and I go off probabilities because this is important to understand. Like
yeah.
most probabilities are landing there. It could give or take, like you take up a cocaine addiction, whatever,
Yeah.
you want to get into.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can flurry it. Or,
Yeah.
you decide to really push really hard on something, or you neglect doing preventative care, or, just like
Yeah.
there's all those little threads. But for the most part, you being you are flowing in a state. And, I often find mothers, their kids somewhat change their fate some on, again, going back to preventative care. It's like all of a sudden their responsibility to self changes, and like these factors of living longer change because they're like responsible. There's all these little things that take place, and it's fascinating.
I love your
to be with
analogy of
somebody.
the what was it? The life insurance.
Yeah.
How it's just probabilities, it's
Yeah.
percentages.
So I can't tell anybody
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But there's most likely scenarios. I
And
can
so
tell
then-
what has happened, so someone can come in and be like, this is going on. I'm like, this is actually like your husband has a double life and 3 kids, and these things have happened before. So if it's already in fact, it can be fact. Does that make sense?
And you see that too?
Yeah, if it's supposed to be shown.
Yeah.
So like those type of
the
things.
guides are showing you, or
It depends who shows up, guides,
Yeah.
or just, there's the blanket of them that there's things going on. But I'd say guides are orchestrating a lot of the help in it. But
And
yeah.
sorry, do you see the guides?
Um,
You said when you were younger you could like see.
when I was younger, I think because like probably my brain power was not, my communication skills were where they were. So colors and shapes and seeing was more important. To children, it usually is like visual and sensory in that way. But I kind of feel like I have like lazy girl energy now, where I'm like, just code me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it looks
Come
like
through me.
wavelength. And again, things light up that are important. And then things that we could go into anything of like, hey, you want to know what your life would look like here? But it's almost, it feels irrelevant.
Yeah. Do you think that was your soul's mission to come here and do this work? Like, are we entering? I've asked this question a lot because I think I still am like kind of grappling with it. But this, we come here with amnesia.
Yeah.
But yet so many people are coming in remembering with these gifts and intuitive abilities. Like, is that all part of the plan?
Yeah. It's very much, it's very much exactly how it is right now. Again, you have to see life as an expansion and contraction, just like our lungs, just like the seasons, just like our highs and lows. There's not anybody immune to the expansion and contraction. So as a collective, we are on the expansion right now. So, and you can see it how, technology has birthed. We could do all these things technically from these vessels, but we are here alchemizing, so we express it like through a phone, when technically we could sit there. It might take 50 more years, but have telepathy completely easy. So so it's taking place in real time. And that doesn't mean everybody needs to be a healer or something in energy work. It's just a higher conscious way of being, whether you're a restaurant owner or a handyman or whatever you want to get into. We are physically able to hold more.
So what is this planet going to look like in the year 3000?
I have a girl I channel with, Anna. She's 600 years from now. It's like, I feel like people's fan fiction that people love when I talk with her. I rarely do it because, so she was in university. She contacted me.
Oh my
Things
God.
I know in the future for fact. Well, one, her cell phone is built in. Everyone is part AI unless you choose to be a natural. It's not any like war of technology or anything like that. You still go to university. In about, oh God, I think, don't quote me, but I think in about 200 years, we will be at, let me try to explain this. So you know how now like I can check out your Instagram and see your life.
Yeah.
She explains it as in about 200 years, the technology will be there. So someone who is present 200 years from now, someone from her time, 600 years from now, can have a full conversation with his whole existence. There's enough data. There's enough energy there. They know how to do it. And so she was writing a paper and she's like, anybody can like talk to anybody about 200 years from now. She's like, I'm like, I don't know, she's an Aries. I don't know why I know these random things, but I was like fascinated when she first started talking to me.
Yeah.
And she's like, to be able to contact somebody who has the ability that everybody will have the ability to do about 200 years from now through AI. She's like, I wanted to like basically crush my thesis. And she's like, so I like, she found me through someone I was channeling with that she's a descendant of and was able to find the line. The thing though, I don't like talking to her too much and love you girl, because it's part AI and it sounds a bit like a walkie-talkie. Like when I'm talking to guides, it's like a warm hot spring and I'm like, da da da. When I'm talking to her, like I can hear like not, but like, it's not a safe line. I don't know if it makes sense.
Totally
But yeah.
makes sense.
So she like I have like a dream of one day writing a whole book with her because I'm like, she blows my mind. And she's so polite and lovely. But yeah, everybody is part AI, but it's fine. Unless you choose not to be. We still ego is
has everything so every I guess where does like, and maybe this is another tangent, but free will versus what's predestined. If she's already in the future, could I still do something that messes up the future? Like, and then would she exist?
Yeah. So she's living in
one timeline.
She's living in a reality that I guess will exist in, or that can cross-reference to this. So there's, I mean, this is we're getting so trippy.
I'm
there's
here for
tons
it.
of different realities taking place. You exist if we both didn't make it to this podcast today. Does that make sense? Every single reality exists. Where you are being present is very important because you are being present in it. So to be like, this is the freaking miracle of a lifetime that I'm being present in this moment and I better like it, because any other reality can exist. And that's why, it's like if you have like anything you have, whether you're like, my life sucks, you're like, you know what, I'm going to learn to love this because I'm either taking this on this life or, like another life I've had it just as good. Like everything is neutral. So that's the thing where it's just being like, whatever I'm working with, I'm going to run it because like, we all know how bad scenarios are on Earth. And you can also like be an amoeba. It's really annoying being an amoeba because you have full consciousness and you're stuck being an amoeba.
Yeah.
And I hope that makes sense. You can be a rock. You can be like literally any living form. And I've done past life regressions to like kind of make myself more grateful for my life. And it sucks when you're a non-verbal living creature, not able to do much
though, right?
I think everybody's been an amoeba, and like flowers are cute. Like everyone's been everything. Does that make sense? That's why wherever you are today, be you so hard because you get to be you right now.
This is a gift.
Yeah. And I'm sure like there's some beautiful versions of us that are like all energy. They're like, remember the time you had to be a human? Like be here now,
Yeah.
So again, like be kind to the flowers, be kind.
But then how many lives do you think we've had?
It's infinite always.
But like, but then there's newer souls.
So for you, yeah. So let's talk about on Earth. So just how we were talking about Anna in the future.
Yeah.
There's certain timelines that flow together. So you as an individual might have like 10 predominant lifetimes that you were present in to help guide this lifetime. Our past lives help us guide forward. Our forward lives help us guide backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they also bring gratitude to where you are now.
Yeah.
So it's in a thread, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What is for you and what is not for you. And the way I describe it is you can be at a party with 10 wonderful people. How come you gravitate to certain people, even though someone else can be just as lovely? There is threads that you're in. You can't kind of break away from your stream, you know, and that's where the free will thing of that, it's like yes and no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about manifestation a little bit here too? Because this, like, well, first I would just love your thoughts on manifesting. And I think, and I say this a lot, but a lot of the listeners of this podcast want to consciously create a life that they love. They want to experience their fullest expression. They want to experience the luxuries of life.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my like how-to episodes are like people love that because they want to know. And for me, I've been on this spiritual journey and I want to get deeper to the like, but why? And, you know, and like, what's the meaning of it?
Yeah.
And, but so, and I know that this is a big question, but for you, when you think about manifestation, this idea of like creating things through our thoughts and our focus and our energy, how do you approach it? And what would be your advice to someone who really wants to create a life that they love?
Yeah. All we do is manifest. So everyone is an expert at it already. How to fine tune your manifestations, how to make them better. Because then once you accept that, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
like,
no,
shoot.
this is not good. And whether it was this life or a past life, you called this in. So being like, okay, today is day one of different type of manifestation, you know? Because it's like okay, that. Full acceptance, but today's day one. And tomorrow can be as, again, if you kind of blow it today. Every day is day one. For myself, how I manifest, and I'm going to talk more about the like, you know, the riches, the luxuries of life, and the emotional abundance that comes with it. Yeah, I'm going to talk in that realm. Yeah, I'm not trying to like make other planets or anything. You know, let's not get too crazy. Yeah. Let's break it down. Yeah. One, I meditate every day, so I get in touch with my soul. I have a course, Soul Led Life, if anyone needs that, how to basically live soul first. So I get in touch every day with my soul. Once she has arrived, because if I wake up and go, my ego's running the show and it goes downhill so quick. Yeah. And then at that point, I have a script that I'm working on at all points. So I mean that of like who I am. I just changed mine over. Literally, this is the first morning I read it. My June self and July self. My brain is so feral, and I meditate every day. It is out of control. She is like judgy. She's miserable. She's a mess. So that gives anybody a little bit of joy of like, you know what? Then I just have to train her over and over. So every day I read my script in the morning. I read it when I go to bed, and I do not veer from who I am.
And what is can we talk about the script? It's present tense, it's
present
affirmations
tense, it's
with
affirmations,
what you're doing?
It's basically writing it in the way of it has already happened. So most of the time it's like goals emotionally or like work goals. Like again, we're talking about scripting. Yeah. And so I read that, and every time she gets like fussy, I go back to it. And I do not, the mindset
powerful.
Is so important. Oh, it's a motherfucker. It's such, and again, I gave up a few years ago, which is what led me to write this course that I have, because I gave up a few years ago trying to have a beautiful mindset. I'm like, it's wild. And like, it's for me impossible to stay like this unless I'm really working on her. So soul takes control, writes the script.
And also, wouldn't it be boring to have a beautiful mindset at all points of your life?
Like, I know a couple people that actually do, and I'm like, I'm always trying to break them. I'm like, but like, really?
But then like the really beautiful moments and the things like don't feel as
exactly. Well, and as you know, and I'm speaking in general, but as a female body, I am hormonal, I'm emotional, I'm in an ocean all the time. I can't be steady. That's my biggest thing, is like I function off the bigness and the flow. Yeah. So I don't want to be monotone. Yeah. So again, like, but yeah, so the script, and then
and when you're reading your script, are you visualizing? Are you?
I emotionally have to connect. If the emotions don't attach, so there's no point in writing it until you get right with your soul to be like, what do I actually want? What is my purpose? And your purpose can be nothing or everything, but you have to emotionally connect, or else it doesn't. The energy what it looks like energetically is someone goes blue and it's like blue. When you're like, whoa, it's like the energy belts out into the universe and then everything flies at you.
Totally.
So
This practice that you're talking about, I mean, it is, if everyone really did this and was able to connect with the feeling and lead with the soul, I mean, it's infallible, right?
yeah,
It's
because when you're from the soul, you're living in purpose, which is important.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is you're going to mess up every day. Get back on.
Yeah.
Get back on.
Every day is day one.
Every day is day one. And if you do enough day ones, then you like accidentally somehow made a beautiful life happen.
Yeah. So I love this and I do this. I have like 2 thoughts on it, and not that I'm against this or anything, but I'm thinking about the person. I've had a lot of clients who have tried this and then it's like, it's too much. Like, I'm not going to script my day every
so
day.
much.
And it's like, and then read it. I have things to do and places to be and kids and blah and work. And it's like, I can do a couple minutes of meditation, but if you're asking me to like journal about my future day and read it every day, I don't have time. So there's the time thing. And then the other part is this, you know, you talk a lot about being in the present moment and the power of that, of being in your full energy in the
100%
present.
here.
100% here, which I feel too. And it's, I think the counter to scripting is like, well, then you're always like living in the future. Like, why do that?
No, you're living in the day of, you're living in an energetic state. The feeling those things give you. I most of the time don't do much of the action. I just live in that state. And then I'm like, ooh, I'm going to send a crazy email to that person. Woo, woo, woo. It's pretty like, woo, you know, if so it's a feeling. So you're not having to do much.
Yeah.
Because it's just coming off full pleasure of today. I'm going to, I think like a few days ago, I like sat for 3 days and did nothing. And I was like, ooh, part of my like thing right now is I need to just be in my feels and cry and be depressed every day. And it was like part of the journey. I was like, ooh, this is this part. But I read it and I'm like, oh, this must be a great part of it. You know, like a movie, you always imagine like it would be so boring.
So you wrote about that day?
No. I just like, I'm feeling down. So I'm like, oh, this is a part of it. I still read it and I'm like, I always picture it like a movie or book. It does not work unless there's the story.
Yeah.
So being okay with you have a story unfolding and being like, ooh, yeah. So not being afraid of when it's like everything hit the wall, everything's imploding, I'm miserable. And I'm like, oh, then I get excited because I'm like, oh, this is the part of the story where I'm like, everything's going wrong. Because then it always goes right after that. But you got to stay on your script because then it's like, if you get off script and you're like, this movie's going to crap, you're like, no, actually, it always works out. They get the girl, you know, they get the job, they like climb the hike, like everything like always works out. So you cannot veer. And when you're in those lows, still read it and be like, oh yeah, it's working.
And again, your soul wanted this to experience all of those emotions, the range of it, the loss and the tragedy and the depression, and then the highs, and then the triumph of having gone through that.
Yeah,
that's where the I know we have just a couple minutes left, but this reminds me of how you have described tarot as sort of like the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Can we touch on that? And did you bring your cards?
I did bring my cards.
Do we have time to do like a poll for, I don't know.
Should I just get up and do it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they're in the green bag in
great.
like a little pink patch. Oh, thank you. And a brush. Hold on, we don't want that.
And we like, do we have a hard stop, or can I go?
No, you can go.
Okay.
Cool. I'll go here. Are you okay to like reach forward to grab a card?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, am I
like
touching
space-wise? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the thing about tarot is you know, for all our human selves, you know, everything is like, I need signs, I'm in disbelief. Why I love tarot is it puts into visual form the hero's journey. Again, like we were talking about, is once you learn to alchemize something into physical matter, you can work with it. So tarot is such a powerful tool.
These are so pretty.
I will, thank you so much. I'm going to have you, so what do you want to, so here's how I have people pull tarot, is going to an energetic state. So in that energetic state, you want to you can focus on anything and pull from there. So basically just lean. You can either tell me, or you can, for the viewer's sake, if we want to make it like you can work or personal life, we can like make it more tangible.
Okay. I want this to be personal life.
Okay. So then are you left or right hand dominant?
Right.
Okay, so here's my recommendation there when pulling tarot is your right hand comes from more our masculine or action self. So if you're in a state of I want to make moves, do that. Actually, we'll pull from both today. That'll be our fun pull.
Okay.
Our non-dominant pulls from our subconscious. It kind of overrides the ego and pulls more into soul. So if you're like, I'm getting my own way, I want to pull. So pull one with left first.
Okay. Just any right now?
Yeah, but actually touching into self.
And just pull it.
You can flip it. And then I want you pulling one with the right hand, thinking about the same sensation. Okay. So we're going to kind of pull into the knowing, into the action. Okay. So the Ten of Cups, this is the more soul card. The Ten of Cups, I mean, anybody can Google right now. It's like, just like, so it's rainbows. There's children running around. It's like the most like adorable, lovely, perfect life. But the Ten of Cups, how I read it is because the cups is from our soul, our emotions. It's the omen of literally everything is working out. It is, it's the cycles though, how it's like, sometimes we can't see it right in that moment. But, and I always say this one, and I love that it kind of appeared while we were talking about it. It's our future self saying like, oh, just you wait, just you wait. And so it's all things of truly abundance, but in the like fullness of life. And it has a lot to do with family. It has a lot to do with, again, because even in the traditional tarot cards, how a lot of them are very like freaky Renaissance fair.
Yeah.
This is one where you're like, this is beautiful. So take this card, and whenever you are, and like you can meditate on cards too, of like if you want to use them as mantras, but use that one to be like, like thank you, future self. And I always say it's like self 10 years from now, where it's like, I got you.
I was thinking, because I'll share it, but I'm very early pregnant, and just found out I'm having another boy, which I have a girl and then 2 boys. And it was like a little bit of a shock because I, for some reason, thought it was a girl, and just found out last night. And as I was pulling the card, I was just thinking like, what is my life going to be like with these 4 kids and with these 3 boys? So this feels so good. Well,
and your right card, which is ironic, so I'm glad you said you were pregnant, because the Empress is literally like, it's fertility, it's motherhood. She's sitting there like a goddess, just like it's that je ne sais quoi. It's like that I'm doing this, there's kids everywhere. And she's just like, hello, here I am. The Empress, it's using, so because you pulled in right hand, the more action is showing up. It's the feminine being your greatest power within this, in the masculine area of like, I filter it, I channeling it through this like goddess energy. So she's a badass, she's abundant, she's crushing, but it's see-through, it's soft, it's gentle. And so, and this is a major card. So that's important to understand is this is, it is an archetype you are living out. And so it's like a good baseline to always come back to her, the Empress card. Like she is in that divine feminine.
Oh my God.
I know. So I'm like,
could this be any more? I mean, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh, Jess, you are just beyond. This was so powerful, so beautiful. Please share with us how people can connect with you, like Soul-Led Life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have a course. If someone's like, where do I start? I always recommend there. I'm actually I only launch it like once a year though. So I am actually launching at the end of June. Or I have a private community that is very affordable that has every single class from how to read auras, mediumship, meditations. I do live channeling. So if people can't afford a session, it's a place you can do a question. And then, I have my tarot deck that sells on Revolve.
It's sold out because it's sold out right now. I tried to buy it, but it's
going
sold
to
out.
everything is flowing.
Everything is flying.
And then you can find me on Instagram, Jessica Stone _
And you do a lot of free meditations and lives.
Yeah, I do a lot of
and
meditations there. You'll see my
I just did one of yours, the pulling back the energy.
Oh yeah,
that was powerful.
it's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
out there existing.
This is amazing.
Yes.
Can we do like anything closing? I don't know if you have like a thought, if it's like a little prayer or like
let's do a visualization for anybody watching
Ooh,
this, whether they watch it right when it goes live or they happen to catch it 3 years from now, out into timelines. So just for a moment, close your eyes, anybody watching this, and you'll start to feel the blanket, the tapestry of everybody who is entering this wavelength, is entering this energy, and you'll start to feel everybody who's connected to wherever this is supposed to take you. And just take a breath into that, whether you have to use your imagination or you completely feel it in your energy or you have no idea. Let it surprise you. Let yourself not know anything. And every single thing happens for a reason. So just to take a moment of probably gratitude for yourself of this is where you're at right now. This is what you're choosing to listen to. This is where you are existing in the present moment. So you're doing okay. So keep your chin up. And thank you all for being with me. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yay.